I'm gonna give you the best tips and methods on how to fight against mesh use. Let's get into it. First, let's talk about the base spot. This is a random rattle on the center. Like you can see, if you go into the mesh, you can see it's pretty open and pretty near the outside world. You can see this is not gonna be that hard to mesh. Especially meshes that also have cheats, this is gonna be a piece of cake. Like you can see, I can hit the Jenny from here. Sometimes the bullets get stopped, but a lot of them go through. This is way easier to mesh than, for example, than a pearl cave. You can see this is the pearl cave. It's a bit nerfed in ASA, but you can already see kind of multiple layers here. So this is already gonna be harder to mesh. And of course, pearl cave has lava above it, but we're not gonna count that since not every cave has that. But you can see the multiple layers of mesh. And just the mesh defense in general is better around caves. That does not mean that it's impossible though. It definitely isn't. Caves do get meshed. And a lot of caves also has weak spots. So when you build a base, you can check the mesh first to see where are people most likely to be meshing from. That way you can kind of decide where to put your defenses, where to put your generators, blah blah blah. Now we got land-based spots. Let's say you're building a red light or a snow ramp. It's still pretty easy to mesh. However, people are having a pretty hard time actually wiping you there. Because normally meshes will stay on a certain tame and shoot your foundations from down below. A tech rifle, however, most of the time won't hit because of the range. So unless they can get closer somehow, they most likely cannot shoot with a tech rifle to your foundations. But this is Ark, so there probably is a method of doing it. Otherwise there will probably be a method to do it, right? Simply using metal and tech. Don't only use tech, because they do take more rockets to destroy. However, if they do have a method to get closer, then they will just tech rifle the tech foundations pretty easily, right? So have them both, be covered. And for your ling and stuff, you should not fill them completely with foundations. There's no point in doing it. War room, crafting area, towers, whatever, always fill it with foundations just in case. I know most people already do it, however, I still wanted to cover this. Foundation support. In rattles or caves, if they're big enough, try to have multiple snap points to your war room. Let's say we're gonna make a war room here, right? Let's say this is our beautiful war room, but just to be safe, we want another snap point on top, just in case they mesh the bottom. Let's just get a small cliff plat. Foundation. Now you can just place foundations here and just place more walls up. Make sure that it's also snapped to the foundation. Let's say they mesh these two door frames, it's still gonna be standing. Same with the other way around. If they only break the cliff plats, it's still standing, right? Now, can you do something else? Yes, you can. The best thing you can do is make sure all your foundations are connected to one snap point. So everything goes with each other. Okay, I have too many tames here. This is not gonna look good, but it's just to get the example across. Okay, now this part is also connected to this. And the foundations are also connected. So now, let's say they mesh the bottom door frames. And now the top two. It is still connected to the side. So what you can do is connect the bottom, top, and sides of a build. If the room allows it to happen, right? Now the defenses. You need a lot of internals. Even if your main wall is right there, because there's the entrance, you're gonna need a lot of internals. Not just around the war room and the crafting area, but everywhere. You don't want a single spot to have no turrets, because then they will just be able to walk out of the mesh with zero problems. But also placing a turret here is not gonna do that much, because if they come out of the mesh from here, they can rocket it pretty easily and then still walk out. So what can you do about this? Some really small aggressive tames, like Desmos are pretty small, I think they even fit here. Maybe Vultures or the Morphodons, whatever. They're not gonna stop them, but they will delay them, especially if you level them in HP. And they will also tell you, hey, someone is trying to mesh you, because they just killed all of them, right? So now you know exactly where they are meshing from. Now you also want multiple generators. You don't just want one in the middle. Maybe you want one up here, you want a floating generator. If you want one in this corner, have multiple generators, even if it costs a little bit more element to keep them running. It does not cost that much, it is not that bad. But you also don't want your generators in a box like that, because they are very easy to destroy. Especially in caves, since it is 6 times damage. So what can we do about this? Yes, vault drop generators. What you want to do is basically just place a vault like this, have the front face outwards. Place it in one corner. Now snap this one right to that one. Free place it again, but have the front facing towards you. And snap a vault to that one. Now break the first ceiling or door frame, whatever you snapped it from, with a tech rifle, a sword, or whatever you have. So you should probably make this from thatch. And now your generator is vault roped. it will be a lot harder to destroy. You can also do this with a floating generator, but you can watch my short to see how that works. And you want to do this with most generators. Not every single base location allows for a fault of generator, since there might not be enough space for it. But if you have the space, please do not cheap out on it. And really make sure that you spread them out. Because if you all have them on the single floor and they are simply meshing the floor, they can destroy all of them pretty easily. Be creative, but spread them out. Also, a really good defense tip is batteries. Place like 4 batteries in every heavy. But please have like 4 batteries in them. They're gonna be powered after they mesh your generators or after they legit raid your generators. What are the best aggressive tames to have in your base? Well, there is a thing going around that firewipes are really good against hitting stuff in the mesh. However, from my testing, it didn't work a single time. Not with any of these tames, by the way. So what is the best? Whatever you have the best stats of. So it's probably gonna be lightning and second poison. And lightning is really good if they go inside of the mesh, because the lightning blast does a lot of damage. So I would go with lightning. Poison is my second option, since if they run in with stegos, the poison can actually kill them off, which is pretty damn good. The Carcanos. I've really tried a lot to grab something out of the mesh. It didn't really work. However, hitting through the mesh, they do pretty good. From what I've noticed, big tames cannot really hit through the mesh, but smaller tames can always bite the thing in the mesh. So what is the best then? The mana has a pretty cool thing that if you jump and dash, it will always hit the thing in the mesh. It has a pretty large radius as well. So even if you're not directly on top of it, you will still hit it. The dive doesn't do that much damage, but it's still pretty damn good. You got the Tyler and the Paramane. They don't have a long range with their bites, but if you hit a tame with the Tyler, they're gonna take a lot of damage. If you hit a player with a Paramane, they're gonna burn for a little while. So these are still really good, even though they don't have a lot of range to bite into the mesh. They can still bite stuff if they're close to the border. Stegos. Stegos did actually pretty well. They have a decent range, bigger than the Paramane and Tyla. So having aggressive Stegos can really mess them up, because the Stego a lot of times also does some knockback. You kinda annoy them and knock them back a bit. So Stegos are definitely a really good thing to have on aggressive. However, they cannot grab stuff that is in the mesh. The Desmos. I think the Desmos would be a pretty good tame to have on aggressive in your base. They also bite pretty good through the mesh. They cannot pick through the mesh once again. But they also do a decent amount of damage. They can get decently tanky with top stat Desmos. And they can have good saddles. So if you have a lot of Desmos on aggressive in your base, they're gonna be very annoying to kill. And they do a decent amount of damage. And if the enemies throw a Stego in, it will even self-heal, which is pretty good. Now, the best tame is the Griffin. I know it sounds weird. It is not good to have on aggressive, but it is good if you are online. Now, what does it do? You can swipe and you can hit people with a decent amount of range. And the top stack Griffins do a ton of damage. So if you can just simply dive the enemy a bunch of times, he will 100% die. So this is a pretty good tame. But it only works if you're online, since Griffins on aggressive don't really dive. But if you're online, Griffin, dive the wall where they're meshing from, perfect. Also make sure that you prioritize HP on most of these tames. Not the Griffin of course, because you're gonna be riding it. It needs more melee if anything, because you want them to last long. They don't exactly have to kill the enemy, they just have to delay them. Even inside of your base, Pelovias will be pretty nice. If they think it is clear and they jump out of the mesh with a Stego, a Pelovia stunning them off is gonna be so good. Now, the good old Parasaur. Is the Parasaur worth it? Is the big question. Short answer, yeah. It can really help you. Just get a high level one, make sure it has more than enough food in it so it doesn't starve. That would be pretty annoying. And it will simply tell you exactly where the mesher is, which is pretty important to stop him, right? I mean, what else are you gonna do? You're gonna just look where the rocket's from and then hope he's still there? No, you won't, because now you know exactly where he is. And now you can easily get on a Griffin and dive exactly where the red dot is. What can you do when you are online? They're most likely gonna be throwing or carbos inside if they have a crowd fridge outside. So please have some outdoor spam and links so they cannot do that. Or they're gonna be shooting rockets and tech rifles in. So what do you want to do then? You can of course try to kill him, look where he is from the Parasaur, and of course just dive him. You can also try to have a big dino like a Dreadnoughtus or a Garchar. I wouldn't do a Giga, because if he rages that's not really fun. And just gonna put it into the wall so it blocks him. That way it is gonna be harder for him to shoot rockets. However, you're also blocking your own turrets. So you kinda gotta be careful with that. If there are no heavies looking at him, place a new heavy somewhere where he can shoot the rockets right as they come out of the wall. Make sure to not place it too close to him like this one, because then you can just rocket him very easily. But you guys probably knew that, that's common sense, right? Now, if they are shooting this generator, for example, we're gonna block it in. Just place a couple walls, and if he destroys them, replace them. It's very simple. He can tech rifle this. I can just be waiting here with a different wall. He just broke one wall. New one. He's gonna run out of tech rifles before you run out of balls. Now, when I watched a different creator, Pujanubs, I'm not really sure how to say his name, but here is his channel. He talked about fourth shooting. I didn't really know what it was since I'm not active on official right now, but he still is, so he knows more about that stuff than I do, right? But as he explained it, they basically go into your cave and kinda glitches into the match with cheats, because you do need cheats for that. Take out a rifle and shoot the generator. So that's why it's so important to have outside turrets, a lot of Ling. Ling is cheap to make and it will block them. If they really want you gone, they just wipe the Ling. But it all takes time and it gives you time to be able to log on. So it's very important. Check out his video if you want to know more about it, because he can explain it better than I do. In the end, there's only so much you can do. There will always be different metas, different ways people are gonna match, different cheats. So you kinda have to adapt and learn what is new. However, these tips will give you the best chance of doing so. Thanks for watching. See ya.